Hey everyone, this is Alan McKay. Welcome to episode 60. I'm talking with Jami Jeffcoat from Bungie. Let's dive in.
Welcome to the Alan McKay Podcast. Alan is an Emmy Award-winning visual effects artist and mentor to many leading industry experts. Listen in as Alan talks with other industry leaders in film, video games, and visual effects about their experience, lessons, and methodology. Alan will teach you pivotal advice to fast-track your career, better your skills, and reach your ultimate dream job. Check out the latest episodes on alanmckay.com.
So this episode, I'm talking with Jami Jeffcoat, and Jami works for Bungie, is a technical designer in animation, I believe. Basically, Jami and I talk about a lot to do with her career, and one thing that I kind of fixate on here is the fact that she went from graduating from college right into working for a AAA game company, one of the biggest in the world that does Destiny and previously done Halo and other cool stuff as well. That to me, I kind of found to be really interesting to focus on because it rarely happens, and I wanted to kind of really go in deep on that subject. And I found like the reasons why actually make a lot of sense as to why she was able to do that, and like, that's something that we talk a lot more in depth about, which was really cool. So there's lots of really cool stuff that we get into. I will say that right before this call, I had some big drama kind of come up, and I obviously am not as focused as I usually would be during one of these episodes. I'm kind of a bit scatterbrained, so I apologize for that. And but yeah, this was really cool. I had a blast talking with Jami, and hopefully get to do it again. Maybe if you guys have some questions, stuff like that, we can do another episode or something. I will leave it there. A couple things I'll mention is next month, I've mentioned this before, but I'll be speaking at the It's Art Masterclass in Paris, and there's still tickets available. I'll leave a link in the show notes to that. I'm not saying that to pitch it or anything like that. I'm saying it because I think it would be really fun just to get as many people out so we can go drinking and partying and have a good time. So that's my kind of selfish reasons for it. Anyway, so that all being said, you can check out the show notes, and it's easy. It's just www.alanmckay.com/60. So the number 60 for episode 60. Okay, so let's dive in. You're working at Bungie at the moment, and you're a technical artist. Is that right?
I'm a technical designer in animation is my full title.
So that's even more arbitrary. Cool. So
Yeah.
I'll just say that I worked at Radical in Vancouver. The official title they gave me, I had two titles. One was, I think, special effects supervisor, but the other one was, God, I forgot now. It's like, I think it was special effects art guru or something like that.
There you go.
Yeah, it's just like, please don't make any business cards for me. Like, I do not want that.
Yeah.
But yeah, so like technical designer and animation, is that right? Or animator?
Yeah.
Cool. So what the hell is that?
So it's funny you would ask. It's actually like what my whole GDC talk was about. Was like explaining what my position does at Bungie.
I was actually going to ask you about that later on, but
yeah.
So
it all kind of ties in.
That's right.
Okay. So I work a lot with the sandbox team. They're the people that sort of set up abilities that the player can do, and like I work with the combatants team. They set up like all the bad guys and the AI and all that kind of stuff. So I work with the animation team and sort of those engineering teams and sort of make sure everything in between is like working properly and fixing bugs and writing tools to help like validate all that kind of stuff that needs to line up and look good.
Okay. So,
yeah.
So I guess you're right. You do need like an hour-long talk to go into it. But that's cool. So I mean, is that mainly for Halo, or what projects are you actually working on?
Destiny was the first project
Right.
I started. That was by the time Halo had moved over to 343. And
That's right, yeah.
Bungie was taking over with Destiny's. I think I got on right before they announced the project at that E3 in 2012.
Mm-hmm. Cool.
And I got hired right before we announced, and so that was really exciting.
Yeah, I worked on the intro cinematic for that, which was a lot of fun.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
The one where they step out onto Mars and...
Yeah, that's right. But it was kind of cool because we did have like a lot of communication with Bungie, and I forget what it is, like the big orb. It's like the Traveler or something. What's it called? Like the big white...
The Traveler.
Yeah, so I remember asking them like, okay, so we're doing all this stuff, and the concept kind of changed several times. Like from, originally we had the witch in there, and then they decided to focus more on the traveler. And I remember talking with them and asking like, so what is the traveler? Like, what does it actually do? And I don't know whether it's changed now, but judging by your laugh, I think that you know the answer.
It's pretty vague. Yeah,
So,
the ghosts come from the traveler, and it protects the city, and it's got a mysterious past.
exactly. And I don't really know too much, but yeah, I mean, I like the idea of it. It sounded like it was going to be very interactive and something that would kind of keep evolving. And I kind of think that for those who have the time to play those sorts of games, like, I imagine it being pretty immersive. I'm one of those people who would like jump into Quake, kill some people, and jump out, and I'm like, okay, back to work.
Yeah.
So yeah, but
you can always look into the Grimoire cards and dig into the history and the lore. There's a lot more information in there.
Yeah, I noticed like at least like the first video that ever came out, I think they were showing like you could get text messages, that would pop up and just kind of make it more immersive, and kind of like I like the idea of it. It's definitely one of those things where it's even offline, you can still be, in the game, which I thought was kind of cool.
Oh yeah, you definitely like use the online app to look at your character and look at all the stats, like all your PvP stuff and your gear, just right there on the website.
So, are you a gamer by definition?
I'd say that I definitely was a gamer before I got into games, and now I play them a lot less.
Yep.
But I still try to play Destiny, Minecraft.
Okay, I still haven't played Minecraft or Candy Crush or any of those damn games.
I actually just started Minecraft the other week, and I'm pretty much addicted to it now. So
I'm going to ask the stupidest question ever, but that's like how ignorant I am. All I know is like it's got square cubes and stuff, but like giant pixels. But what do you actually do? I mean, I know that you can build immersive worlds. I think it's kind of cool the fact that I don't know anything, because this way I can actually get enlightened a bit about this. But like, what's your typical thing that you do in Minecraft?
Oh gosh, well, you break blocks and you collect them, and then you build stuff with them and avoid bad guys in the background.
Okay, I like the way you can simplify that down a little bit. That's cool. No, that's good, and I think it's also kind of tragic that you can say like I used to play games and now I don't. It's like I used to love art. Now I do it for a living.
Yeah.
But that's cool. I mean, originally, like, how did you get started out? Like, when I met you was at the Industry Giants event in Dallas, Texas. Is that right?
Yeah. I was going to, I think I was in undergrad at the time whenever we had that Industry Giants thing. I was studying computer science at first.
Wow.
At SMU. So I did that for 4 years, got my BS in computer science.
That's cool.
At the same time, I was working on an art minor that I didn't quite finish. I was about 6 hours short. But I got my Japanese minor, so that's fun.
It's kind of funny. I've known you for a long time, but like, I guess we don't talk too often, and yeah, it's just kind of amazing. I don't actually know any of this stuff about you, so that's really cool. So I actually want to dive into that stuff. So I mean, first of all, computer science. So like, you were getting into coding and stuff like that as well, or how does that really play?
Definitely studied a lot of programming and data structures, algorithms, that kind of thing.
What did you think you were going to be, sorry to cut you off, like, what do you think you would be applying that to? Was it always going to be like, I'm going to go and do games, or was it kind of more...
I knew I wanted to do games, for sure. And I knew I wanted to do art in games, but I figured studying, like, the more technical background would help me get into the artistic side of being able to help support artists and create art and understand exactly how it's all working.
That's cool. And I think it's kind of good. I mean, if you can, and essentially that's kind of like what a technical director is, but like being able to bridge art and, science together, or art and programming, because it's kind of, I do think that you can bring a lot of structure to what you're doing, and when you start to kind of think more both left and right brain, you can start to kind of change the approach of how you might do things, where you might be really creative, but you're doing it in more of a structured sense that, that you can kind of learn, I guess, from the programming side. So I mean, that's really cool. And I mean, like for you, so like you initially kind of went that way, and did you find like right now that it's really benefiting you doing that, or like in your current job, or you're more kind of like doing technical stuff, but it's more on the art side at the moment?
It definitely benefits all around. Like whenever I'm writing tools to help out animators, that's all C#. I've done some C++ to do some engine features and import code, that kind of stuff. So I can
remember Hello World. That's about it these days. It's been a while.
Yeah,
that's cool. That's really cool. And yeah, actually, I love that too. Like I helped out on Call of Duty a bit, and like that was kind of fun just because I wasn't quite sure whether I could really kind of help their workflow and their pipeline much, but just even the simplest things, being able to build tools around like what people are doing. Sometimes like you might have scotch taped together this process, and someone can come along and say, well, why don't we make a button for that? You know what I mean? So
actually, I just remembered I was in grad school whenever you did the Industry Giants thing, and I went to your talk specifically because like there was this small project I was working on, and like the title of your talk sounded exactly like what I needed to know in order to like get this effect that I wanted in the game.
Oh, really? That's cool.
Yeah. So I was like, oh, I have to see this.
Did it help?
Oh, definitely. Yeah, it was great.
Cool. That's awesome. And I'll slip you $5 later for that one. What was the title of my talk that made you want to attend?
It was something about Max effects. I don't really quite remember the full title, but it was like playing with effects in 3ds Max or something like that.
Like at this point, you doing some talks. I'm pretty sure you're well aware that when it comes to actually titling your talks, it's so arbitrary. It's like, let me throw together some words that probably make no sense, but sound appropriate. So
yeah, my GDC talk was called "The Missing Link: Technical Designs in Animation."
Yeah, exactly. I think the only time I've done a talk where I actually felt like it described what what would benefit you was I gave a talk at Autodesk University, and I think it was basically called something like 10xing your career, or making yourself 10 times more employable, or something like that. But it's like, okay, at least that you can go in expecting an outcome rather than visual effects and design or arbitrary coding with art, something where it's like, that sounds like it's got keywords. It's very meta.
Yeah.
But that's cool. That's really cool. And yeah, I don't really remember what I think I gave. That's right. I gave 2 talks. One was on the main stage, and then there was a VFX one, and that's
the main stage was like a round table sort of.
Yeah, we did the round table, and that was kind of funny because John Carmack and I and a few other people were all up there.
Gosh, that was so great.
Yeah, I don't know. I guess because it's Texas too, it was very laid back. We're just doing, I was drinking. Actually, I think at one point with my main talk, I had someone run to the bar and get me a beer.
I think I had some Coronas up there.
That's right. That's right. But I guess, like I was saying at the start of this call, like I've toned back my ways a bit now, but then again, I'm so hungover today that maybe I'm back.
Maybe back on the back. Oh, wait, the other one.
But that's cool. Like that's so cool, and that was like a really fun trip. Like I got to meet a lot of people, and actually, now that you mention, I do remember you were one of those people asking like lots and lots of questions in that smaller group, and I think that actually worked out really well, just having a smaller group rather than it being like on the main stage where people are not really going to be as interactive.
Definitely, there were lots of good questions being asked, and everyone who wanted to talk had a chance. That was really great.
I do remember, like, I didn't have any hotkeys set up, and it had been so long since I had done anything with hotkeys. Like, I think I needed to make like an animation preview, like a play blast, and I couldn't remember where it was in the Max menu because they'd changed it so many times, and I had to actually ask people like, how do I do a preview? Which mightn't put any confidence in people, but yeah, my hotkeys have always been the same, so I'm just like, all right, Alt Q or whatever it is, and done. That's cool. And like, what about Japanese? I'm just kind of curious about that.
Yeah, I minored in it because I knew that I wanted to make video games, and there's lots of game companies in Japan, so
there are?
I didn't know where I was going to end up, and I figured learning Japanese would help me end up in a lot of different studios,
That's cool.
Yeah.
It's kind of interesting too. Like I've got a friend of mine, like he's a really talented artist. He came from a 3D artist background, but then he wanted to become a director, and he wanted to direct specifically in Japan. So he moved to Tokyo, and he'd been studying Japanese for a while, so that way he could fit in. Because again, Japan is not one of those places that's like, oh, you don't speak Japanese, then we'll accommodate you and speak in your language. It's usually like,
not really.
Nope. Yeah, but for him, it was kind of like his angle, I guess, was he wanted to be more the gaijin coming into Japan and, the white director basically, and kind of stand out that way, which, I don't know, like I love Japan. I've been to Osaka and Tokyo multiple times. And
Osaka is my favorite city.
Oh, yeah? That's really cool. Yeah, I love it. Like, Tokyo is really cool, but again, it's such a big place. And also because there are so many tourists, I think it makes... it sometimes can work against you in a lot of ways. So, but
Osaka is just super friendly. Kind of reminds me of Texas compared to everywhere else.
The Asian Texas.
Yeah.
That's cool. That's really cool. And yeah, I love it. It's definitely a bit more down to earth than Tokyo. I did actually go to Ninja in Akasaka, which was this restaurant that I've been told about many times. Like, if you're ever in Tokyo, you got to go to this place. And the way it was described to me was, you go into this restaurant and like this drawbridge comes down and this ninja jumps out of out of nowhere and leads you into this underground hidden village. And then they're doing magic and all this stuff. And I'm like, holy crap, I got to go here.
That sounds great.
Yeah. And I ended up having a talk I had to give in Tokyo and actually in Osaka as well. And Autodesk were like covering everything, because I've gone by myself on like a really lean budget with a friend of mine. Like, I was at a bar one night and we decided, like, he was going to Japan to look for work and he's like, it'd be so cool if you came. And I'm like, fuck it, I'll do it, let's go. And
yeah, let's go.
Next morning I woke up and I'm like, oh shit, now I gotta go to Japan today. So hopped on a plane and it's full out there. So I mean, I did it more on like the budget, but then going with Autodesk is like the complete reverse, where it's like staying at nice hotels and having the whole experience. So they were really excited about going to Ninja as well, just because they're like, we've always wanted to go, but it's too expensive, but now it's on the company credit card, so it'll be awesome. And it was like freaking amazing. I don't know how much it cost. Like, it would have been expensive, but it pretty much was like as they described it. Like, you have like this magic drawbridge come over and you go over on a moat, and
a moat.
yeah, and they have like magicians like dressed as ninjas will come out and like do magic and do all this cool stuff. And
oh wow,
yeah, like they
was the food good?
And the food was terrible. No, like it actually was it was amazing. So like they would come out and like make soup right in front of you and cook it on these like hot stones.
Okay.
And yeah, the whole thing, like I've got photos somewhere, it's so long ago now, but like it was pretty amazing. And then I found out one night I was in New York, and I found out they have a ninja there as well, and like I'm like, oh, I'm gonna have to go to this one too. Nice. But it was totally not the same experience. It's basically just like big big Asian room, like the way it was all dressed, but it was just like a bunch of tables and very gimmicky. So it was just kind of like, let's take the core concept and just destroy it and make it really cheesy.
Yeah.
But if you ever go back, or when you go back, you definitely got to check that place out.
Definitely.
But yeah, I mean, that's really cool too. And have you found so far, like, have you actually been visiting there a lot and found like, like work-wise, have you been able to kind of use that as a bit of an angle or anything if you were to talk to people over there?
I think I could definitely use it as an angle to try to get in. I would need to take like the Japanese language proficiency test again probably and get like a good score on it.
Would you have to be like, EA y'all, gonna throw all the Texan slang on the end? Yeah.
I don't know. I get compliments on my grammar and my accent whenever I go over there. So
that's cool. That's really cool.
Yeah.
I didn't really notice. I know we're talking about everything but 3D, but I didn't really notice like people in Dallas having like a really thick accent. Like, I've always wanted to go to Texas, because I think for everyone from outside of America, like that is what you
think
picture.
We all sound like this.
Y'all know what I'm saying?
Well, if you hear me talking to my grandma or my best friend on the phone, it all comes out. Like, I can't help it. Or if I've had like a couple drinks, then it all comes out too. It's just I just like slip up.
One of my buddies, he's from Africa, like Liberia in West Africa, and like he talks, very proficient, very American, but then he gets on the phone with his family and it's just like completely different. It's like, whoa, and even the other day, like he slipped up, we're at dinner and talking about going fishing, and he's like, yeah, we totally have to go fishing, and then he like stops himself. He's like, damn it, like fishing. That's cool. Like, I kind of like that too. I notice whenever I go to bars, or if I talk about bars a lot, I'm starting to realize a pattern. Or talk with family or whatever, like my accent definitely switches back to being Australian, whereas like over here I kind of hide it a lot, just because otherwise you end up talking about Australia, like you're in a cab and it's like, great, I'm gonna have to listen to do you have electricity in Australia, is it true that everyone has a pet kangaroo, everything you can imagine. It's like you being asked, like, do you carry a gun?
Definitely wear a cowboy hat.
So when you graduated, do you go straight into looking for work, or like what was your path from initially saying, this is what I want to do and this is what I'm studying, now I've graduated, time to get out there and tackle the world? Like, how did that kind of line up for you?
Yeah, so I definitely had a plan from like the very beginning, like while I was still in high school. Like, I knew that I wanted to go to SMU and study computer science, and then after that I wanted to go to this program that SMU has called the Guildhall. That's a video game master's degree sort of program, and you can either study art creation, level design, or programming.
That's cool.
And so I knew that like I was going to get my background in computer science, and then I wanted to go to the Guildhall to study art creation, and just like abandon the computer science side and just go all the way in on art, and that way I could use my programming skills and my directed kind of study stuff near the end.
Cool. And it's like
Yeah.
when you graduated, like, did you spend a lot of time having to look around, or was it just like, holy crap, she can code and speaks Japanese, hire the hell out of her right now?
So yeah, after grad school, I looked around for maybe 2 or 3 weeks. I started a job at like a summer school teaching kids how to make video games and do 3D modeling.
That's so cool.
And I had to leave them early because Bungie had already started interviewing me. And I warned them, I was like, well, I'm going to be flying up to Seattle soon, so I just want you guys to know that I might not be able to finish this whole summer. And then I got the job after my interview, so I was like, all right. It was like maybe a month out of grad school, and now I've got a job at Bungie, and I've been there like 3.5 years.
I'm pretty sure everyone's going to hate you, because it's usually like, it's been a year, and like I'm ready to give up, and it's so hard, and it's just like, what do you mean, y'all? I just graduated and walked right into the the biggest game studio, or one of them in the world, and worked on one of the biggest titles, and this is easy.
Even ran into one of my teachers from grad school. Like after I got the job, I was like walking around the grad school trying to get my stuff together, and they're like, so Jamie, job at Bungie, huh?
That's cool.
And I was like, yeah. They're like, well, you know what, you deserve it.
That's cool, though. And if anything, it means like, you can come back and later on and give more talks down there though about like your experiences and everything else, and inspire others, or show them how you kind of got to where you are. So I mean, I kind of like that, the full circle where people are get to study and get out there in the real world. I'm sure it's pretty satisfying for everyone around them to kind of see you guys grow up and kick butt. So and
I definitely tried to make the most of my time there, just like nose to the grindstone, or whatever the phrase is, just like working all day, working on my portfolio, working on my projects, just trying to have something I could show that would give me a job.
That's awesome. And I'm just kind of curious, like for you coming straight from graduating right into work, I mean, what do you think maybe you were doing differently that others might not be doing? And probably the obvious answer is you're working your butt off and determined to get in there. But is there anything that you found was like really pivotal to had like a massive impact basically on you getting in there?
I did I had a lot of people review my portfolio on a forum called techart.org. And I was just always on that forum, just sort of looking at what people are posting, like what other people's portfolios look like how can I be competitive with that. I make a pretty damn good looking resume. I love working in Microsoft Word and making stuff pretty.
You're like, Bungie used to be, affiliated with Microsoft, so I'm going to use their products, like screw Google Docs. Make a good point of that.
Well, we save as PDF. It's all the same.
So you're on Tech Art and getting a lot of feedback and kind of revising your stuff through that.
Always getting feedback and looking at tutorials and just kind of trying to figure out what was relevant at the time. And so I guess like at the time I was looking more into facial rigging and like quadruped rigs and just like trying to get like on the rigging side and writing tools and sharing my tools online on I think it was something hub, maybe CG hub.
Okay.
But yeah, just like trying to share my tools, getting feedback on those.
Cool.
Putting my little brand on them.
By the way, I'm going to lower my desk. I've got like a mechanical desk, so you can hear that really quick.
Yeah.
I just figure I'm going to sit down. But that's really cool. And with doing that, I mean, I guess most people, they kind of go through a phase where they're working on their portfolio, and because it is so much work, they kind of go through that phase of like, I don't want to revise it, it's perfect, and I almost don't want to show it to people because then they're going to say you could change this, and you don't want to go through that step. But that's really kind of like where things come to fruition. And I kind of always think about it like, I meet people occasionally who, if I'm supervising them, they just blatantly don't want to change stuff. And if you're working on a piece, you can't really expect version 1 to be final. You know what I mean? It's part of the process. So it's more about kind of getting it out there and beating it to death, trying to get like the best of the best from it. And that's what's going to either get you the job or not. And I think for you to kind of openly build all this stuff and like get out there in every way you can, but then on top of that, basically beg people to tear your shit apart and at least give constructive criticism. So that I think is like a really, probably one thing that's like really powerful is just the fact that you're doing that, because it means that if you get to a point where no one's really picking it apart other than maybe comments that don't really apply to what you're doing, all the key stuff, if you can address that, then it means that when you go to apply somewhere, you're gonna have a really strong portfolio. And if you're not putting in that work, then like why are you you even applying? Because if you're not willing to make it the best it can be, then when you apply, I mean, this is going to be the job that you're going to have for the next few years. So, you want to increase your chances. But that's cool. Like, I think most people aren't really willing to do that. And like,
Yeah.
What was your experience with that? I know it's a bit of an arbitrary thing to ask, but I mean, you would usually just kind of put your stuff up and get people to critique it and tweak it, and then you'd put up the next version and go through that.
Yeah, like I would post what I had. I would ask questions on things that I was still working on. I would ask like, what would you like to see in this rig that would be really helpful to it, kind of thing, or what would you like to see in this script that would make it better? And I think now that I've been in the industry, I've had a chance to look at some of the grad school that I went to. I've had a chance to look at some of their theses as they're like trying to present them. Mm-hmm. And I feel like from the other perspective, like me giving somebody feedback, like I'm really just trying to help from like the most professional standpoint I can take and just be like, how could this person improve this in order to get them into the industry? Like what would an industry professional look for that they don't have in this? And so luckily I took feedback the way I hoped, or am I making sense? I took feedback the way I would have wanted to be received if I was giving the feedback.
Yeah, but it's true, because I mean,
it's all a loop.
You sorry, I'm yelling so much at the bar last night, my throat's a bit stripped. Never drinking again, I swear.
Never drinking again.
I actually got tagged yesterday. A few guys in Europe were like, "Never drinking again," then tagged me in it, and I'm like, "Thanks. Like, what have I done?"
Yep, it's like your trademark now.
I know, right?
Put it on your business cards.
I was gonna get T-shirts made or beer mugs.
Oh,
would be
there
even
you go.
better. Yeah, but what was I gonna say? Yeah, I mean, you definitely gotta filter it as well, because I mean, there's feedback that you are going to agree with, and there's going to be stuff that's like, oh, that's too yellow or whatever, or something stupid.
Yeah.
Make the button bigger. So you can't listen to everything, and you've got to kind of use your best judgment to say, okay, these are the things that are going to get me the furthest ahead, and these other things either are irrelevant or more wish list. But
you gotta have like focus to whatever you're working on. You don't want it to be all muddled and confusing. Just like have its single purpose and do that as best as you can.
Exactly. And yeah, I guess for me, I am kind of picking apart your whole school to job process, just because, again, like, if you meet people who have had that major success where they didn't go through that, man, I graduated and I thought it was going to be all smooth sailing, and a year later I'm still getting my foot in the door. So I mean, me, I'm always kind of fascinated when people kind of hit the ground running. And for you kind of sounds like you really nailed that. I do know, like, so let me back up. When you submitted your application, everything, they reached out to you and said, like, let's do an interview. What was the process? Again, I think it's just for people to get an understanding, because I'm guessing you did like a phone interview, then probably flew up and did an in-person interview as well, or how did it all go?
Funny enough, I applied online to their rigger position, and they responded like, hey, we're looking for someone with a bit more experience for this position, but would you like to apply for this technical designer and animation position that we think you're qualified for? And I'm like, yes. Like, I'm not going to say no to you just like you asking me to apply for another position you have open. Yeah. And I think it really did fit more of what I was working on at grad school, now that I think about everything they were looking for, like sort of multiplayer, first-person shooter. Like that was exactly what my last project was. And I hooked up all the animations in that. And I had that all up in my portfolio to show, and like it's basically what I do now at work too. It's just on a larger scale. And cool. But yeah, after they suggested I apply for technical designer and animation, they had maybe one phone screen with their HR personnel, a couple more phone screens with the animation manager and the guy who was going to be my boss. And they just asked me lots of questions, tried to keep me on my toes, see like how I thought. And then they flew me up for the in-person interview, and that was like 9 to 5 interviews all day with a lunch break that was also interviews. Yeah,
I was going to ask you about that, whether you had the schedule of like, okay, these 3 people, then these 3, and it's like a menu you're probably going to get that's like, these are all the people that are going to speak to you today. Get ready. Go to the bathroom now, because you're not going to get another chance.
Oh yeah, like there's water in the room. Like if you need it, go for it. No, it was great though. It was really comfortable, the interview room. Everyone was really nice. There were parts whenever I was like, do you mind if I stand up and act this out? Like sort of like they're like, oh my gosh, yes, please do.
That's really cool.
Yeah, just asking me like sort of animation questions. There was this one interview guy, Sage. I just thought that I was just answering all my questions so bad, and I was like, oh no, I'm not going to get the job. He asked me all these hard questions, like define fun, like what makes a game, that kind of stuff. And I'm like, oh my gosh.
Man.
I'm like, okay, I got this.
How do you prepare for that? That's one of those things that like 2 days later, you're going to be like, I know what to say now.
Yeah. Well, we kind of actually studied that a bit in grad school. So I felt like I had all these ideas, but I didn't really know what the right answer was. And I don't know if there really is a right answer, but.
Well, what did you say? I'm kind of curious, like how you would define a fun game.
Oh man. Fun is just, I guess I sort of explained it as having sort of a goal that you can reach and work towards and feeling like accomplishment once you get like towards the end or being challenged. I guess like for me being challenged is fun, just maybe kind of weird, but
no, it's good.
Just like having the ability to accomplish things and the way that you do those, not feel tedious. Gosh, like it's such a hard thing to think about.
Yeah.
It's like have a rewarding experience and while accomplishing goals.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely, I think those are the curveball questions that like there's nothing, it's kind of like define happiness, these are the sorts of things that for everyone it's actually going to probably say more about their personality than they might even be aware of when they answer that. So, because for some people, like, I guess it goes back to gambling too. I mean, because I've read a lot of books in psychology, and gambling is like a really good one where they've done a lot of tests where if you have a game where you're just, pulling the poker thing and every single time like you win, you get bored very quickly of that. And if every single time you lose, again, you're going to get frustrated and walk away because you know that you're not winning. But the randomness of like 1 in every 10 times, like randomly you're going to win, it just causes you to go insane, and you end up having this compulsion to keep playing because maybe the next time is the one that you win, and then you can walk away and
until you're out of money, and then you have to walk
exactly
away.
Then you got to like win it back at that point, and it's just it's total mindfuck. But that's the thing is like we're all kind of we need those triggers to kind of get that fulfillment, and for a lot of people you need that challenge. Otherwise, if things are easy, then it's just like relationships or anything else. If it's easy and it's not much work, then it kind of doesn't make you want to put in the time. But I mean, that's kind of cool that they do throw those at you, because I think for some people that would kind of make their heads explode a little bit. Like
and it's always a challenge to sort of like figure out how to handle like the people that are really good at whatever game they're playing versus the people that aren't so good, and like trying to have a fun experience for all of them.
Yeah, definitely.
So it's
like
a challenge to figure out.
I guess I used to play a lot of games, and I remember like Quake 2 was always a fun game until everyone like kind of discovered the railgun, and then every game was changed after that, because it's like, what kind of twitch reflexes do you have? Like, a 12-year-old's going to be able to kick your butt because, they've got the sensitivity.
Mario Party, and you have to like press A as fast as you can for basically all the games, and it's just like, oh my gosh.
Still, I think it's kind of cool. And again, like, there are a lot of those kind of games, like even like Dance Dance Revolution sort of things, where it is all reflexes, but it can be kind of fun to kind of, you got to kind of switch your brain off, because if, those are the situations where your brain's going to be the one thing that's going to like screw you over if you actually get a chance to process information instead of reacting the whole time.
About Dance Dance Revolution too hard.
I've never played it actually, but I guess growing up I always wanted to mock it, because I'm, again, being an Aussie guy, I'm like, look at those stupid people playing Dance Dance Revolution. But now I kind of think of it, I'm like, actually it's kind of fun,
It's a pretty good workout too.
Yeah, I can imagine.
Yeah, back whenever there were arcades.
Back in the day.
There was this one in this arcade I used to like to go to in the mall, and I would always play DDR when I got there or watch the people playing.
When you can make it an acronym like DDR, then...
DDR.
That's awesome.
And DDR, Soul Calibur.
Oh man, good old Soul Calibur. Yeah, I miss those games. For me, there's times where every studio I've gone to, there's always been at least one point where you start trash talking about Street Fighter, and there's one time in New York where we spent a good week, like every night, trying to track down an arcade so we could play Street Fighter, and we couldn't find it. They'd all closed down basically, and then finally...
That's one thing I love about Japan is there's always arcades.
Yes, I never expected that. Like, I expected that, but like I didn't expect. For me, like I ended up probably the first time I went to Tokyo, I probably spent more time in the arcades over there than anything else, and like that is not why I went to Japan, But I actually got hooked on. They actually have like, by the way, like way more advanced games than we do. Like they had like Doom 3 and like all these other. It wasn't Doom 3, but other first-person shooters using the Doom 3 engine. And
I was
just like, we don't have this stuff.
They have great games over there. like the music games, the fighting games, the shooting games. They have like giant Gundam machine games that cost $5 per play, and you
That's
just
so
like
cool.
you're in a robot.
I want to go back now. I got hooked on Dragon Ball Z because they had like a fighting version of that, and that was cool. And like I went back to Australia and I was all depressed. I'm like, I don't have this game over here, and I really want it. But now I'm getting all nostalgic. But that's really cool. And yeah, I guess like for you, when you sent your initial application in, I do remember actually you asked me a question which I thought was like pretty smart in a way, because like you will read about applications, like, you know, you put in your application and people look on social media and like you're doing body shots and going crazy and doing all this stuff, and therefore they look at that and, you know, shun you for the job. And like you did ask that about like, hey, I've got pictures of me, like, you know, maybe next to a beer, like shock, you know.
Yeah, I do remember that. I was like writing my bio and it was like, what kind of things do you like to do? And I was like, well, I like to go like to the Holy Grail pub and have a beer and burger with my friends. I was like, is that okay to say? That I like to get a beer and a burger with my friends? It's true, and I don't want to lie.
If you bring it back up in the second paragraph and then the third, and it's like, well, got to get going because I'm going to get a beer and a burger at the pub right now. Maybe there's a bit of consistency, but that's actually a good point, because you know, I'm starting to remember it all now that I think about it. But like when you asked that, like I thought that's really valid, because like it is worthwhile thinking about that stuff when you're going through your application. But at the same time, like, and I think I probably said this to you, that actually can work in a positive way, actually saying like, hey, I go out with my friends and have a beer, because in a way, like that's what they want. Like if you're going to be spending late nights and, you know, a lot of stress around like a lot of people for a long time, you want to be able to like, you know, go out and with everyone. Yeah. You want to be able to go out and get a beer after work, or go for a hike on the weekends and be social, because there are people who are like, nope, gonna go home and you know, work on play some DDR and you know, just making sure I got that right. But yeah, I mean, you know, I think it is definitely, it gives a bit of insight into like, okay, you're a social person and you do normal things, and you know, you'll basically be part of the team. That's great. Yeah. But it can be counterintuitive as well, more obviously, because, you know, if you go in and you do have like pictures of you doing like, you know, crazy partying, like every single thing is just party. Me from experience, I can say that, you know, that person may be hungover all the time, and there might be a bit of a wild card, and you know, that's also something that's can raise warning bells. But, you know, rather than
but you're hungover, but you're at work on
that's right, and I just got to keep orbiting around the screen until this hangover goes away. But yeah, you know, and that's the thing. I was like, you know, I've definitely done my fair share of partying, but always showed up on time, even though I might stink of booze. I was in Canada, and I was working on Superman, and I got brought into one of the supervisor's office and he proceeded to yell at me because he's like, you know, my entire team is out sick because you were out partying all night. And I'm like, hey man,
I came in.
Yeah, I'm here. And that's the thing, is like, you know, there's nothing he could do in that situation. It was, you know, so it's just like, look, it's not my problem that your team cannot handle their booze. Okay. Right? I've been here since 6 a.m. Yeah. Oh my gosh. But yeah, that's the thing, is like, you know, it can be a positive thing. It's just more about like weighing up, like, okay, is there anything incriminating on here? You know, otherwise it's just like, you know, anything that you do is going to be more insights into your personality, and you can really control that.
Ultimately, I decided to reflect more of my personality where I could. Yeah. While still looking professional.
But that's what I mean. Like even in your interview, I mean, a lot of that stuff that you're doing, like saying, hey, can I stand up and act this out, or is that weird, basically? All that stuff is going to show that you're getting into it. You're not, you know, and that you've got like a fun personality. You're not like nervous and kind of curling up in a ball inside answering these questions.
Oh my gosh, I don't know.
And like I've only had, I think, one of those interviews ever, and that was with Radical. And that's the thing, is like I went in there, like I went from owning a studio, having 30 employees, and my whole experience with going to Radical is just weird. It's just weird timing, because I was just as I decided to close that my company down, and I actually just wanted to do something completely different. And yeah, so it's just weird timing, but I ended up going there and being, you know, just a regular soup and an employee. And so I went into the interview, and I hadn't really been on the interviewing end of things for a very long time, and I didn't really know what to expect. And you know, I kind of find it funny, because maybe for you, but like for me, I get asked questions, and after a while I'm like, whoa, I actually know a thing or two, because people would bring things up and you're like, oh well, on this project we did that and this and that, and it's like, cool. Like when I walked in here I thought I was like stupid, and now I'm starting to think like, hey, I actually know how to answer this stuff. This is more reassuring, you know, until they ask you to define what a fun game is, and it's all bets are off.
It's like, oh my gosh, what? Wait, no. I mean, I'm not nervous. I've got an answer for this.
Yeah, but it's cool too because like most people are going to be aware that like the person coming in is going to be a bit nervous and not their typical self, and you always got to take that into account. So even though someone might be a little bit weird or whatever, then you're still going to be like, okay, like they're under pressure, and I'm sure they're not usually like that. But
Yeah,
if
I
you can
spent like 2 hours figuring out what to wear like that morning. It's like,
That's cool. Did you go in like dressed as Pokemon or something in the end? It's like, I gotta show how passionate I am about what I do.
I decided to wear jeans with heels and just like a little sweater and like a pearl necklace. I was like, all right, now I look casual but fancy.
Little dressy, yeah. It's like, after this, I'm going to the opera,
Yeah.
That's cool. And like, I think along the way, it's part of their job too to kind of make you feel a bit more at ease. But, anytime you're going to be doing an interview with, let's say 12 or 18 people over the duration of a day, it's going to get a bit grueling. But did you expect that going in, or did you just expect to rock up and be like, yo, like, what are we going to talk about?
I really wasn't sure what to expect. They were like, just be here at 9 in the morning and we're going to interview you. And it was like hour-long interviews up until lunchtime, and then that was basically an interview, and then afterwards it was a few more quicker interviews until I guess around 5 p.m. is whenever I walked out of there, and they were like, all right, we'll let you know in a couple days.
They're like, by the way, you did terrible. Like, no pressure. See you later. Yeah, I gotta say, actually, the lunch meetings are always the worst because you're trying to eat or
So we chose like, I don't know, I wouldn't have chosen this place for a lunch interview, but it was one of those conveyor belt sushi places, and I was sitting next to the conveyor belt, so I was like, oh, do you want me to get you, does anybody need, would anybody like?
Yeah, you're taking orders pretty much, like,
I think I ate like one little thing of fried rice, and I was like, I can't eat any more food. I am like exhausted.
Between nerves and everything else, it's a bit too much. That's cool.
It was a lot more fun questions during the lunch interview too. It was like, if you could make a game that you wanted, like if you could make anything, what would it be? Kind of stuff. Mm-hmm. Like what have you worked on in the past?
See, I'm kind of curious now, like what the hell all these answers are, because I think these are actually really cool. Like, what would you make if you were going to make a game?
Oh gosh, well, I kind of like there's this comic book I'm sort of working on the side, and I think I would want to make a game sort of that goes along with it, just sort of a story adventure about squirrels and zombies,
the usual. That's really cool. Actually, I
really like mixing cute stuff with like just gore and violence, and just adorable animals.
You can't beat that.
Yeah,
that's super cool.
My favorite.
I was actually thinking about going to Georgia pretty soon. I got invited to go onto the Walking Dead set, and
oh, awesome!
Yeah, because I was hanging out at a bar coincidentally last night, and there's a guy from Georgia, and I was like, "Hey, I'm actually going to go to Georgia later this year to hang out for a couple of days," and he had no idea what Walking Dead was, and I'm like, "How can you be from Georgia and not know?" And so I'm like, "Man, it's like me not knowing about Crocodile Dundee or something." I don't know.
Oh my gosh, yes, Crocodile Dundee.
I hate that. I walk into bars sometimes, and like the bartender or the waitress will think it's really cute to like go and put on like the Land Down Under song. So it's like, do you come from the Land Down? And I'm like, no, this was funny the first time, and it's now like the 10th time. It's not cool.
This one time I went to New Orleans for Halloween,
wow,
and I walked into a bar, and I swear there was 3 Steve Irwins and 1 Crocodile Dundee. And I made a bet with one of the guys. I was like, there's no way you're Australian. I was like, that accent is so fake. Like you have to prove like that you're Australian, or like if you're actually Australian, I'll buy you a Foster's, something like that. That was
a test though, because if he says deal because I love Foster's, then you're like, okay, you're not Australian, you're a fake.
He just sort of rolled his eyes at me, and he was like, fine. And then he pulls out his military ID, and he was actually Australian, and I was like, damn it.
So did you have to buy him a Foster's?
I bought him a Foster's.
Man, we hate that stuff. Like we keep.
Sure, hated it.
Yeah, we keep away.
But that
from
was part of the deal, and I was like, "Dang it! I thought his accent was so fake."
Yeah, mine's definitely gone away over the years a bit. But like I said, I don't know. I'll go out with people, and especially when I first got here, I felt like, how can I be speaking English and you're speaking English and you have no idea what I'm saying? Like, what the hell is going on here?
Oh my gosh!
I've always been
I
fascinated.
was in
by
Hawaii
that.
recently.
I know you were.
They have a whole dialect there too called Pidgin, and it's just like,
right.
What?
Yeah, there's a lot of countries that have Pidgin, which is like, every country's going to be different. So like Papua New Guinea has Pidgin, which is like, their own version of English, which isn't English, and it's very confusing.
Yeah.
That's cool though. And yeah, I want to go to Hawaii pretty soon, so I was picking your brain a little bit about where to go.
Fun stuff.
Yeah, and hopefully my apartment doesn't burn down while I'm away like yours.
Good luck with that. No fires.
So, like, since you went there, and again, like I guess I've never spent so much time on like these specific things, but I think this is fun. What were kind of the typical things when you first got in there? Did you go through any training and go through that process, or was it pretty much get in your chair and make art now?
There were a couple weeks of ramp up where I was supposed to look into all the story and all of the like lore behind it, and just sort of watch a bunch of the old videos that they had recorded and stored on like our tools that people have written tutorials for, or just familiarize myself with the game and play test it at the state that it was at. And I don't know, I didn't spend the whole 2 weeks doing it. I think by like that first Thursday, I was already trying to figure out how I could fix bugs and do work. I was like, all right, I've watched everything.
Yeah, because it can get pretty boring too.
I read everything, I watched everything, I'm ready to get to work. I was just super excited.
That's cool, and shows how ambitious you are or hungry to get in there and start making stuff. Like, what are some of the biggest challenges you've kind of found? Like, you mainly just had that one game project, right? Or has there actually been multiple?
It's been that one. It's been Destiny, and
because that's always growing. It's not like it's ever going to end.
Projects and special events coming on after that, but it's always growing and becoming more diverse, and it's awesome. Biggest challenges.
I gotta finally stumped her. You can stand up and act it out if you like.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. Let's see. All right, I might have to edit out my giant pause.
It's totally fine. There's a button for that.
Yeah, like sometimes I'll just get like just a massive amount of bugs on me, and it's always like, oh my gosh, it feels like I'm drowning, but at the same time, it just means that like the testers are doing their jobs and everyone's working together to make a better game. So it's still really refreshing, and like just burning down all those bugs and closing them also feels just as good as getting them feels scary. Let's see. Figuring out like how to improve the tools, like things that can help improve animators' lives is always running around asking. Like, I do a lot of desk side support, and figuring out like what an animator is having a problem with. It's sort of like, oh, like you always seem to have a problem with like this kind of setup. Like, let's just make a tool that automates all that for you.
That's cool.
Sort of stuff.
Streamline it all. Like, was there anything like that you ran into? It's just like one of those things that you look back and it's like, oh god, I hated that. Like I think in film, like we always have like those shots like ZZ07 or DH256, and it's like, oh man, do you remember DH256? It's like, don't talk to me about that. Like,
don't talk to me about that.
Like, that was 6 months of my life I'll never get back. Actually, the ZZ07 I mentioned, that's actually from like a Disney movie I worked on. It was bird poop that I initially did. It looked great, and then the director probably spent more time directing that poop than anything else. Like, in the end, it had like bird seed, subsurface scattering. It kind of like rolled on itself. It's like a bird pooped on like a monkey's head or something, and in like George of the Jungle, and they wanted all this stuff to happen. And it's just like, are you kidding me? Like, and then you see it without handles, like the additional frames in the cut of the film.
You can do this with practical effects.
Yeah, I know. At this point, it's just like, look, I'll get you a bird. I'll get a lot of seed, and we'll go to town on this. But yeah, you got those projects you look back at, it's just like, man, was that really worth like, all this money and all this time? But were there anything for you where you just wanted to get over and done with, like one of those tasks?
I think most of my tasks are pretty quickly like worked on and finished. So I don't spend a lot of time on one thing, which I really like about my job. I just sort of work on one area, then I move on to the next as soon as that's done. So I don't really think there's anything so far that I've just felt was spent too much time on.
That's cool. Like, I guess like,
maybe my GDC talk. Oh my gosh.
Well, let's talk about that, because like,
ready to do that again.
I remember you getting ready for that, and it was a bit of a ramp up to kind of prepare it all and get going. But like, actually, because I did speak to you about that, like what was it? I don't really remember, but like I guess like it's a big deal, especially the first talk you give. You're expecting everyone to have like vegetables and fruit ready to throw at you, and
oh my gosh, like I've done theater and stuff before and talked in front of groups of people, and it's so much different whenever you're just trying to like act out somebody else's stuff versus trying to write your own stuff and explain it to people. It's like a whole other beast.
That's cool though. Okay, how did it go though? Like was it what you expected?
So I thought I was gonna have like 30 minutes to talk, and it turns out I only had a 25-minute time slot, and my talk was definitely like 32 minutes, and because I had a lot to say. And whenever I was working my way towards the conclusion, the person in the back starts like waving their hands at me, like crossing their hands, like, you have to stop talking now, it's over. And I'm just like, I'm not even to my conclusion yet. Like, I'm not gonna stop talking. So
you're being dragged off stage. They're playing the Oscars music, trying to get you off.
You can see in my video, I start talking really fast and stumble a little bit on my words, but I'm talking so much faster now. And
Yep.
And I was just trying to get through everything. I felt so bad at the end when there was no time for Q&A.
Well, that's the cool thing too, because you can always walk outside and have people chase you down.
Yeah, we definitely did that. And there was this special room that I was assigned to do Q&A in afterwards to stay out of the hallways.
That's cool.
And I could tell there were so many more people that started in that group, and then as the room got further and further away, there were people dropping off. I was like, oh, they probably want to go to the next talk, so they don't have time to ask their question right now.
I always feel bad for that, when people are waiting a really long time, and then it's, you're like, I'm sorry, but I've been told I've got to go to this thing now, and, you're going to kind of abandon the line of people who have been, waiting 20, 30 minutes to chat, and it's like, I'm done, I got to go, email me.
Yeah, here's my card.
Yeah, exactly. And that is really cool. So, there's an actual video online that we can check out, and...
Yeah, on the GDC website, I think you have to have a membership to the GDC Vault in order to access my actual video. But I believe my slides are on the website for free.
Cool. Awesome.
Yeah.
Well, I'll post a link to that as well, so everyone can check it out and be like, there she is, talking a million miles an hour to get it all in. How did that happen? For you, did they just basically come to Bungie and say, hey, we want to get a few people to talk about stuff, and they basically... assigned you and a few other people to talk about subjects, or how did that work out?
Actually, how it went down. I had gone to maybe 2 or 3 GDCs previous to the one I was asked to talk at, and I would always go to the animator or the tech art roundtables, and I would always ask questions or talk, or they would always ask for people to volunteer information about how things are going at their studio or what they do. And I was always really active and asking questions, and there was this one roundtable I went to, people were just complaining about having to work between artists and engineers, and just how that's so difficult, or trying to deal with designers and artists, and trying to just make sure that everything between them is all okay. And I raised my hand. I'm like, that's actually the whole point of my job.
Really?
And they're like, what? Cool. Tell us more. They're like, what do you do? And I'm like, I basically work between the designers and the animators and the engineers, and just make sure everyone understands each other, and all requests are being met, and all requirements are understood. And they're like, that sounds awesome. We all want you at our studio. And then that's whenever one of their organizers asked me to do a talk during the animation boot camp before GDC actually, the GDC big conference starts. They have the boot camps in the first couple of days.
Yep. So that's cool.
Yeah, because I was all talkative and asked lots of questions.
You got a habit of that, I noticed.
Yeah.
But that's cool. I mean, that's exactly it. I think the people who kind of, create those situations for themselves are the ones that get to have all these opportunities, because you're the one who's really showing up. Yeah, exactly. And that's the thing too. It happens organically. It's not okay, I'm going to show up, I'm going to ask this key question, and then they're all going to be like, holy crap, we want you to talk about this more, and we'll fly you out. That's really cool. And again, I think it's so cool to be able to be so proactive, and you're the one showing up at these places. You're the one asking, intelligent questions and getting people to notice. So, I mean, that's you kind of creating all that for yourself. So
yeah,
cool.
It's so crazy, going to those talks and talking about my job, and then having one of the lead animators at Rockstar coming up to me and being like, hey, can I get your business card? And I'm like, what?
That's cool. You're like, is that a real Rockstar shirt, or if it's fake, go buy me a beer.
Yeah, right.
But so sorry, I'm getting my brain's still mush. I swear, I'm not the young person I used to be.
You just gotta do yoga before the interview. That gets you all
ready. I did some push-ups, if that counts. I'm like, get the blood pumping. I'm dying here.
Yeah. This morning I almost didn't want to wake up, but I was like, I gotta go to yoga so that way I can be in the right mindset for the interview. Right
now, with what you're doing, I mean, is that what you ultimately want to be doing, or is it more do you have some stepping stones to where you want to be in the next couple of years? This is turning into a job interview, by the way.
Yeah. I mean, this is definitely the kind of stuff I want to work on, solving design challenges with animation. Whether that leads to either being more of a technical director position, or just I still want to do stuff. I don't want to
manage.
Have a bunch of people that I have to manage, but I just really like actually getting in there and working on stuff. But figuring out a direction for something would also be fun, and I guess a little bit of management would be cool because I'm kind of OCD and I like organizing things, and weirdly enough I like writing documents. I don't know.
I used to. Now I'm terrible at that, but yeah, I know what you mean.
Like I said, I love working in Word and making really pretty documents.
That's cool. No, and what's your take? I mentioned this before, but what's your take? Is like obviously being a female, like a woman in the industry, has that you found it to be a bit different to like, let's say most of the guys, especially games, are going to be very male dominated. So you're going to have a lot of dudes, and some places you go to, especially I think the smaller ones, you're always going to get like the boys clubs and everything. And for you, what's that experience been like? Do you find it to be pretty unbiased, or do you find it to be sometimes like, okay, things are a little bit different because I'm a girl? Or
well, like in my case in particular, I've always kind of been the person who tries to get into the boys club.
Yeah.
Not that there's anything wrong with the girls club. We actually recently celebrated somebody had to wait in line to go to the bathroom stall in the women's bathroom, and there was like an email thread, and it was like, oh my gosh, I had to wait in line to go to the bathroom, and it's like, yes, there's enough women here to do that. We were all happy.
Let's go celebrate tonight. Mimosas for everyone.
Yeah, mimosas for everyone. Oh my gosh, cosmos all around.
That's right.
Oh my gosh. But yeah, I feel like I've always gotten along with guys first. That's like school and college and everything. Maybe it's because of what I studied or like being interested in games in general. I was just sort of fit in.
Yeah.
And so I get into the industry and everything just feels normal for me, honestly. I never really felt discriminated. Everyone's been really respectful and really nice. And I hear a lot of horror stories that people have to go through working with like boys clubs and having like a male dominated industry, but I haven't personally felt any issues with that. Everyone's been really great and respectful.
I definitely think like the industry's very much changed over the years, because I mean, yeah, you go back 10, 15 years or whatever, and especially games, it was, all dudes, and usually I used to teach like a game development course like years and years ago, and for me, it was always kind of part of the joke is like, not only is it all dudes, but it's like dudes in Metallica t-shirts who haven't bathed for a few days. And, it's just very, very different. But, I think...
Oh, yeah, we still have those. Sure.
But yeah, I think it definitely has changed. Like I think it's been more to do with the awareness of, and also education as well, but awareness of 3D. Like, it's not like, okay, now, girls are becoming more familiar with it. It's more, in general, everyone is becoming more mainstream. So therefore, it's not like you need to be in this specific niche area of obsessing about Doom and Quake and everything and doing mods. And then naturally you kind of got into this. It's more like, okay, well, there's a class for that. I can go do that and, be an artist. And, in my industry, in film, especially back in like the 90s, there'd be lots of women, but not necessarily in 3D. But then coming to the States, I actually was surprised. Like most places I worked, there was, at least a small percentage, but there was definitely a lot more women over here. And going to like Japan, actually, that is, pretty even. It's probably like 40-60 in terms of like wherever I'd go is a lot more women work in the industry than I would find over here. And
I think games and entertainment in general in Japan, there's a huge like female population of like workers.
No, I get it. And like that's the thing, because it's more like, okay, this looks fun, I want to do this. It's not like, what's the hurdles that come in with it. And
yeah, I actually met several women in Japan, and I remember talking to them, like we were doing karaoke, having a good time. We'd talk about video games, like our favorite video games and like our favorite animes and stuff like that. And I'm like, I broke down once. I didn't break down, but I broke it down with them one time. I was like, how weird this conversation would be like in America to have like just all these girls together talking about their favorite video games. Like, it's just not something that happens often over there. I mean, it does happen, but
I'm sure there'll be some guys around like, this is so cool. But that's great. Yeah, I've always been curious, because like I do have some of my friends who are in the industry. It's always mixed, and I've always been curious, and like especially talking to a lot of listeners from this podcast, just there's been definitely a lot of interest in like covering more about that. And I did mention to you as well that like at some point I want to try and do like a round table. I just got to A, find the time to coordinate it, and B, figure out the best way to do it, because I think it needs to be over Skype, and I've never really done like a group chat on Skype. So
well, I'm definitely just one voice too, and I'm sure like my experience isn't like near the same as somebody else's experience. So I would love to hear that kind of stuff too and talk about it, like how my experience has been pretty easy and neutral, and I feel like a game developer, not a female game developer.
Yeah, exactly, and that's how it should be too. I do think, and again, like obviously I don't have much experience with being a woman in the games or film industry, but
well, let me tell you.
I do think that sometimes it can be, from what I can see, it can be challenging at times where it's like, I haven't personally seen too much of like really extreme BS. Actually, to be honest, I have, but again, I think it just comes down to those individuals as well. But, I think for the most part, like there are going to be situations where maybe you're going to have to be a little bit more tolerant or just,
See, my issue is that I'm a pretty vulgar person myself. I make like all the bad jokes, and what would offend me more is if someone would try to hold that back, like from saying a vulgar joke because I'm around.
Yeah.
I'm like, no, like I'm
Finish the sentence.
I'm probably more vulgar than you if you just get to know me. Just like, don't assume that you can't say something because I'm a woman.
But that's good. And like I said, I mean, you want that kind of environment where it's not like, someone's going to change their behavior because certain people are around and,
Put away the poop jokes.
Yeah, exactly. No more poop jokes. It's like, why? I like my poop jokes. I just talked about my bird poop,
Yeah, yeah.
So that's cool. That's really cool. And it's good as well that you've got like by the sounds of it, like a really fun environment where you've got, a good group of mixed people who are all doing stuff and, able
definitely.
to... Yeah, and...
Like, I wish I could say, like, oh, Bungie is great, they're diverse, but I don't really have much to compare them to at this point. But yeah, they're great, they seem diverse, like, everyone's really friendly and accepting, and... What
was it like switching from Texas to Seattle? Because, in a way, they are pretty different places in many different ways, actually.
Yeah. It's tough. It's tough going from all the sunshine to all the clouds and the rain.
Yeah, exactly.
My first winter here, I was just, there's like seasonal affective disorder.
Yeah.
Like, I didn't know what was going on in my first winter. I was just like, I just don't know why I don't feel good. Like, there's no reason for me to be upset about anything. I'm just, like, I'm such a happy, like, peppy, optimistic person that I was like, I don't know what's wrong with me. I started taking vitamin D and it just fixed everything. I was like, oh my gosh, I'm my old self again.
That's cool. Yeah, and that's just it, because like, I was going to say, I was kind of surprised that you would experience that, but I guess Seattle, yeah, it makes sense. Like, obviously, like Norway, places like that, where winter, the sun just literally doesn't come out, or it does for an hour. You get that because you miss out on melatonin and, from the sun, so your body doesn't produce enough and you just kind of get completely imbalanced. And, yeah, I don't know. When I lived in Vancouver, I managed to track down, like, I wanted to have an alarm clock that was also kind of illuminated, like simulated sunlight, basically, when it was time to wake up. And that way I could get up like 5 a.m., even though the sun would come up at like 8 a.m. And the only place I could find one was in like Norway or Finland or something. And I had to have it shipped over and get a European converter and all this stuff. And then the light was like way too weak. Didn't really do anything. But that's just it, because like I want to be able to trick myself into getting up early, and all the stuff that you get from like chemically from the sun, getting vitamin D and getting your body to know when it's time to wake up. That's why we have transparent eyelids, so that way we can see light and we can tell when it's time to get off your butt and get up and go to work and make cool games.
I recently moved to an apartment that faces the sunrise, like the windows face the sunrise, so such a huge advantage.
Yeah, I could not do that, you know what I mean? And that's always been something that, like, occasionally when you are living with people, you'd get that where you're kind of arguing about, like, I like the blinds closed. And I'm like, I've got to get up early. Like, I need
I just have my blinds completely open all the time because I'm like, I want to watch the sunrise whenever I wake up. And it's like, tells me, like, okay, it's time to start the day.
Got the birds chirping and the whole thing.
Oh, yeah, I even got a bird feeder out there.
That's really cool. Well, I'm going to have to wrap it up pretty soon. I've got to actually go to the beach and...
jealous.
I know, I love LA. It's like, I got a meeting and I'm like, well, we could do it at my place, or we could do it here, or we could just go to the beach and, have a beer and chat about stuff there. And
make me miss Hawaii.
Yeah, like you were there for 2 weeks, right?
2 weeks, yeah. So it was just like, go to the beach until I was like so sunburned. It was probably a bad idea to go outside, and then we stayed in for a little bit.
That's cool. I did that in Thailand. Growing up in Australia, we got the hole in the ozone layer, and so the sun's extremely strong. And then I moved to Vancouver, then I moved to Germany, to Berlin, and then I went to Thailand for like a month, and they had never seen someone so sunburned, and I actually got like really bad sunburn on the top of my feet, like around like where your ankle connects. It's like you can't walk or anything, and that's just because I'm like, well, I'm Australian, like I can handle the sun, and me being away from it for so long,
that's how I felt. I was like, I'm Texan, I can handle this. Like,
is this the best you got, y'all? Yeah. So but you got to go through that punishment occasionally. It's like, it was worth it. Check out this, once the scabs go away, I'm going to look so awesome.
It was so funny. I was like, oh my gosh, I'm sunburned. Like, that's so awesome. And my friend was like, what? Like, my boyfriend was just like, you like having the sunburn? And I was like, yes. He's like, oh,
it'll be worth it.
You.
I want to get all gross for a minute and say, like, occasionally you get like that person who gets really sunburned and somehow finds it really, this is going to be gross, but it's like, they get addicted to like peeling skin off, and
oh no,
it's disgusting. It's just like, you're doing this on my couch, like, please go outside.
That's
for the love of God. Yeah. Anyway,
good manners.
So I didn't hold back just then. That's really cool. And like, so you've been there for a couple of years now and doing all the Destiny stuff.
Yep.
Yeah, that's been really sweet.
Getting used to the weather finally.
And yeah, like I guess you're gonna be staying there for quite a longer time too.
Yeah, that'd be great. I'd love to stick around, keep working on Destiny.
Mental note: if HR is listening, please extend my contract. Yeah, that's really cool. And do you see yourself doing more talks in the future at GDC or anything like that, or would you want to?
I would love to do another talk, just like not 1 year after another. Like, I need time to mentally recover from all that practice and nervousness and just like writing up all the content. Like,
yeah, it's
I really enjoyed it. It was a fun experience. I just can't. I don't know if I could do it very often.
Right.
Maybe every other year.
Yeah, I mean, it's cool though. I really enjoy doing this stuff, but it can be a lot of work to get into that. And I don't know, like I had my first ever bomb. The AU talk I actually mentioned a while back, because like for me, anytime I've ever given talks, it's always been pretty laid back and I've always had fun, and usually I don't prepare too much. I have like my process. Even like Industry Giants, I would write down everything I wanted to cover, but then writing is part of my process, and then I would just write the one or two words that remind me what that's about, and I'd walk out one sheet of paper and that would be it. And the one time I actually decided, okay, I'm going to really spend a lot of time on this, and I went to Vegas, and the entire week everyone's like, hey, we're going to go out and party here, and we're going to do this, and I'm like, oh, I'm going to work on my talk, and like I end up putting so much content into this talk and practicing so much. I brought out my iPad, and like, just as a side story, I was in Finland recently giving a talk as well, and this is the first time I ever saw someone else bomb, and like this dude completely just got stage fright and was freaking out on stage, and I was always like, whoa, like I hope that never happens to me. And it's exactly like what happened at AU. Was like I had my iPad and all my notes were on it, and it basically auto fit all of them onto one page, even though I had multiple pages. So the text went really, really tiny, and I could barely read what it was, let alone like anytime I look away and look back, I'm like, where was I? So
Yep, I feel that.
Yeah, it's like for me, like I've never ever bombed a talk, and then at least for me what felt like 10 minutes, but according to everyone else is like 60 seconds, but I'm looking at my iPad and I'm just like, I'm that guy in Finland right now. I'm like totally freaking out and I don't know what to say, and I've got like a room of, I think it was 500 people, so it wasn't too bad, but it was still a lot of people. And I'm like, holy shit, I'm totally having a meltdown. And it was just a matter of like, okay, I'm just going to put the iPad away because that's what's fucking me up, and just go with the flow. And I like to think I recovered a bit, but it was definitely one of those talks where I'm like, all right, I finally did it, and I'm so proud that I actually invited all of my friends to come and watch this too. So
definitely.
Yeah, so they all get to see me bomb as well. So I don't know if you know Lee Johnson. He's in Dallas. He's a 3D guy, but I just know how small that place is. But he was one of the guys in the crowd. Yeah, I actually made so many friendships actually at that Industry Giants event. It was a lot of fun. So yeah, it was really cool. And everyone's gone off and done cool things as well. So but so with you, like, is there any parting words that you want to tell people about how amazing the industry is and what your super secrets are that made you the awesome person you are today?
I went to Jimmy John's once.
Jimmy John's, what the hell is that?
It's like a sandwich shop.
Okay.
And there was a sign on the wall that said, do what you have to do when you have to do it, so you can do what you want to do when you want to do it. And I just really took that to heart.
It's like mind blown,
And
That's
I had
cool.
a great sandwich. So good sandwiches and inspirational posters.
There's some food for thought.
The secret to my success.
That's cool. I read an article the other day, and it was about it's irrelevant. It's basically just like Google lost their domain and someone bought it, so they actually bought it back for them for 6,000. And so basically the amount they bought it for spells out Google, and
Yeah,
the article was saying that it's a dad joke, and I'm like, what the hell is a dad joke? And so I had to go and look that up, and
yes.
I'm like, oh, great. And I don't know why, but like ever since then, I've been starting to actually do dad jokes and really just terrible
I do dad jokes too.
yeah, but like, I don't know. I took pride in never having such a terrible sense of humor, but now I'm just saying, terrible things like food for thought when you're eating a sandwich, looking at something. It's like, yeah, zing. Proud of that.
Zing.
Pat on the back.
Oh, yeah.
Is there any way you want people to follow you, like Twitter, stuff like that? I can share links to all that stuff.
On Twitter, just Jami J. It's basically,
cool.
Yeah.
Too easy. And
but just is part of it, so it's not Jami J.
Yeah.
It's just Jami J altogether. Jamie with an I.
Talking to you before, I'm like, okay, yeah. Otherwise, I would have just written down Jami J, but I'm like, nope. I'm on the same page. Yeah. So actually, I'll just say, like, one of my there's a guy I know who has a reel, and he started charging people $1 to view his reel, and so that way, if you wanted to look at his work, on Vimeo, you got to pay $1, and therefore you'll be able to watch it. And like that really backfired. At least my experience with that, we wanted to hire the guy, and like no one at the studio was willing to pay the. Yeah, no one was willing to do it. And I never asked him about it, but finally, I think he took it off, so that way you just could watch it. And I did notice that he had like over 1 million views and on his reel, which I thought was awesome. But at the same time, I'm thinking, like, without asking him, like, I could see the logic in this. He's like, 1 million views. If I had $1 for every view, then I'd be a millionaire. So maybe if I charge $1, I'll make $1 million. So I could actually ask him sometime and be like, how much did you actually make from that? But
that would be interesting.
I think for a lot of people though, it was just like, okay, maybe not understanding the reason behind it. It's just like, yeah, we're not going to consider this person.
If we're trying to get a job, I'd have the free version.
Yeah, exactly. Well, this guy definitely, is well established, but if you're going to send your link to people, I guess it's not like, hey, here's an invoice for $1,
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I guess props to him for experimenting. But yeah, I mean, this has been really cool. Like, next time you're at GDC, or if you come down for E3 or anything like that, let me know, because I'm usually bouncing around those events. Cool.
That sounds great. Yeah. Are you going to be at GDC this year?
It's in February, isn't it?
March, I think.
March, yeah. My March is I'm going to be in New York, DC, Paris, and I'm going to spend a week in Europe while I'm over there.
Oh, that's all.
Yeah, and then I'm going to San Diego for a conference for 4 days. So yeah, and I'm also going to Portland. So the entire March is going to be pretty nuts for me. Yeah, but
no
maybe
San Francisco for GDC.
Maybe I'll make an excuse to go. So who knows? I'll let you guys know if I do, because I think the W Hotel always throws like some pretty sick parties. Like, I know Microsoft always holds theirs at the W. I think it's the W or the Globe.
Yeah, the W is usually really hopping.
Yeah, it's one of those places, like, I don't think I know many game people, and then you just like walk into a party, and it's like, holy shit, this is like, a birthday party.
Thirsty
like,
Bear is always filled with
well, it's just like, it's kind of funny, like, you definitely meet people over time, and even at Bungie, I got a few friends who are over there right now, and I'm trying to remember the names, but I mean, it's such a small industry, people go everywhere, and especially at events.
Did you ever work with Bill O'Brien? He's one of the lead animators, and you might have worked with him on the trailers and stuff.
At least for Destiny, no, I don't remember that name, but I was.
You would have remembered him.
Oh yeah.
He's a funny guy.
Like, a few of us went up there to Bungie to meet everyone. I wasn't one of those people. I was VFX souping, but like a couple of the guys did, and they had a blast getting to see some of the stuff and get a tour and everything. So it's kind of cool. Maybe next time. Yeah, who knows? But this has been really cool. So stay in touch, and I'll let you know how this goes.
Oh yeah, I had a great time.
Okay, so I hope you enjoyed this. I had a blast doing this with Jami. It was a lot of fun. And if you have any questions or want to leave a comment, you can go to the show notes, which is www.alanmckay.com/60. And you'll also be able to find Jami's social media and all that good stuff there as well. One thing you can do on the show notes is join my inner circle, and that is a private list which I send out a lot of content quite regularly to. In fact, the last 2 or 3 weeks I've been sending out a lot of cool Maya videos specifically, but other times I'm giving away a lot of career content and other stuff. Obviously, one of the big ones was always being able to get access to the actual job scripts, which I use to negotiate or apply for work, and a lot of other really cool stuff. So there's a lot of cool content that I'm putting out that's exclusive to that list. So you can either join that on the show notes or directly go to www.alanmckay.com/inside. And that's the inside circle. Other things are, please leave a comment on iTunes if you get a chance. That sort of stuff I'm always grateful for. And if you want to leave any comments or anything like that for myself, or I'm sure Jamie will see them too, go ahead and leave them on the show notes as well. So that is it for now. Have an awesome week. I'll be back next week for more fun and games. So until then, rock on.